Hello. Welcome to Loving Me Before I Love You podcast with Tammy Nicole. I am Tammy Nicole, and I am super excited to be starting this podcast. I am very passionate about self-love and empowering women, and this podcast is going to allow me to do just that. I am basically going to be looking at self-love and how it is affected, not necessarily affected, but how we are affected by self-love in reference to careers, beauty, relationships, and mental health. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to join us or join me and some of my friends on this journey as we do this deep dive and exploration. We're going to have a little fun. We're going to talk some noise, and we're going to heal and find solutions to some of the issues that we struggle with on our day-to-day as we build healthy self-love relationships with ourselves so that we can love others, as loving me before I love you is essential. We are back, and I want to say thank you again for joining us. We're going to dive right into part 2 with Evelyn Peters talking about career and self-love. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Thanks again for coming back to see us.
Love yourself, because if you're being a representative, 9 to 5 or 80 hours, a pay period, however you want to phrase it, then are you truly being authentic and loving yourself?
Yeah. So that honestly rolls us in to my next question. Oh, not even next question, but the real next topic of the role self-love plays in creating a successful career. Because like you just mentioned, is this job really for me? Why did I choose it? Was it just about money? Was it just about power or position versus purpose?
Right.
Or, what drives and motivates me to live?
Right.
I think that we as a whole tend to do that in general. I think back to being a little girl when everybody says, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right. And typically you think everything that's financially secure. You think, a doctor, a lawyer, they make a lot of money, blah, 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 blah. But we ain't think about what we good at. We ain't think about I do well talking to people. So I guess I should, find something that does that. It's more so what's going to pay these bills?
Right.
Or, I want to be rich. Right. I remember that being, I just want to be rich. I want to be going on vacation. I want to be doing X, Y, and Z. But it's wait a minute.
Right. Yeah.
How do we literally choose the right career for ourselves? What do you say to that?
What makes you happy? Money, yes, We all need money to survive. And it's funny that you said, well, I want to be a doctor, because that's what I said when I was younger. Like, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
But money wasn't the driver in that situation. When I was saying that I love helping people, I love problem solving, and seeing the level of relief, right, on someone's face when it's like, oh no, here, let me help you with that, and actually seeing things through and solving a problem for them. That's my passion. So to me, I was like, oh, being a doctor, I'm fixing everybody, right? I'm healing people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when that life took a turn and that was no longer in my path to do so, then I started thinking of, well, how else could I help someone? Oh, HR. HR deals with a lot of problem solving, right? Money, although it's great, it shouldn't be your main motivator and driver, because your
Mm-hmm.
money could be gone tomorrow. And then what do you
Mm-hmm.
do, right? Yes, it pays the bills, but is it going to bring you happiness long term? When you wake up, are you excited to go to work? Are you looking forward to it? And if your answer
Mm-hmm.
is no, then you might want to reconsider what it is that you're doing, because you're bringing on a sense of, I'll just say, stress onto yourself when you're in a
Unnecessary.
unnecessary stress. Exactly. When it's like, I have to go to this job, right? It's a job. No, you should pick your
Mm-hmm.
career. Your career should be aligned with your purpose, your passion, because then it's not going to feel like a job. It's not going to feel like work, and you have that ick to get up in the morning, right, and go to it. We spend more time at our at our office than we do at home. So why not go somewhere where you're happy and you feel like you're making a difference? Again, yes, you have to live, right? You have to earn a livelihood, but are you going to sacrifice your happiness for a paycheck that could be gone tomorrow? Your job could replace you tomorrow. So that to me is the main thing. Focus on what you're good at. Focus on what makes you happy. Focus on what will motivate you to get up in the morning and go to that office knowing that you're making a difference versus not. Because it shows, and it takes a toll. If you're going into an office where you're not happy, you're going to be grumpy. You're
Mm.
going to be grumpy. You're going to dread the days, and that's not a way to live.
Yeah, I think it also puts you in a position of being very technical
Mm-hmm.
and not being very like passionate, right? So it's like if this role is supposed to do X, Y, and Z, like you're really focused on the X, Y, and Z versus the overall success of the role.
Right.
I just think back to I won't say several. I feel like all of my career paths have always been in a helping capacity as a therapist, doing things from, a business owner standpoint, getting into HR a little bit myself, doing all these things. I think it's always been more of a helping capacity. I think when you go anywhere, right? So when you wake up, what is the thing that you'll do that you won't need to be paid for?
Mm-hmm.
It's like where the passion and the purpose kind of, stems from. But most of us, of course, always want to be paid. Nobody wants to do anything for free.
Right.
However, when you choose a career or you choose a job, as you mentioned, you tend to just like, man, I just need this check,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But I do think that when you throw self-love in the mix of it, no matter what you're doing, you can still, if you have the self-love component, it may not be what you want to do in the moment. I think about any kind of job. Like say, for instance, you get laid off and you're like, man, I just got to make money in here,
Right.
some kind of form or fashion to pay these bills. I may go get a job in, let's say, old fashioned days, we're going to go work for McDonald's or Burger King or what have you. But I still have a passion to serve individuals. That person should still exist if the self-love exists.
Right.
It shouldn't just dissipate because I'm not in the job I was, or,
right.
Making the amount of money
right.
that I was making.
Right. Because it takes a toll. It takes a toll on you as well. If you're unsatisfied or, dissatisfied in what it is that you're doing, you're going to carry it with you. And then if you have a family, it's going to affect your family because now you're coming home in a bad mood. You're coming home complaining about your day, and so it's like, okay, now you're putting those feelings and your emotions and on your family where that's not healthy. It's not healthy. Your energy affects others. So if you're constantly going into a position that, it's bringing you down, essentially, you're going to carry that and it's going to affect others. So why put yourself in that position? Again, yes, we understand that you have to make money. You have to pay bills, right? But where's the cutoff on that for you? Where's that your limit on that? So are you going to sacrifice your happiness to pay your bills, or are you going to find that balance? Life is a balance. So.
Oh, let's not talk about that. I mean, I don't think we as people know how to balance. A lot of times. I think you have your two sets of people, those that are like career focused, going real hard for the career. And then you have those that are like living their best life, and not focused on a job or a career at all. Very few in between balanced people, right. They want to do both. They want to be able to make this money and live, and have a good time. I just think that, I don't know, for me, self-love is always gotta be the core or the foundation, only because it's the driving motivation to whatever I do in life. Self-love is not self-care. And I think that we mix the two.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
We mix it real quick. You constantly hear people self-love is this new phenomenon. It's the new goal. It's the new thing, right? So it's when people talk about self-love, they talk about it from a standpoint of for women, go get your nails done, go get your hair done. Oh, get you a massage, go do blah, blah, blah. That means you love yourself. And I'm like, no, it don't. That means you want to be cute. Now, I mean, not taking away from it.
Right.
Because those things are components to, catapult and motivate and keep it going. But that doesn't mean that you love yourself because you do those things. There are people that are sitting in abusive relationships because they do those things. They're, people that go to jobs that they hate, but they get those things done because they have an image to uphold. If they're in a C-suite, if they are somebody's executive assistant, or, anything of the forefront of that being on the front line, they must get their nails and hair done. They cannot come in here looking like who shot John.
Right.
So, but that's not a direct reflective of they love themselves.
Or that they have it all together.
Bet.
Or that they have it all together. I mean, the mask. And that's what I was, referring to earlier of, are you putting on a mask when you go to work? Or are you being authentic? Are you really being yourself? Because, there are a lot of people that will put on that mask and we are looking at them like, wow, that person has it all together. I wish, right? And then here we go with the I wish, when you don't know what's truly going on inside that person. That person may not love themselves at all. They may be beaten down inside, right? But they have They have learned to master how to operate in this image to give the appearance of
Man,
having it all together. I mean, how many
man,
times do we hear of, tragedies of people unfortunately taking their own lives? And we're sitting there saying,
man.
wow, I would
Right.
have
Because of the image that
never.
it gave us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with self-love, it's you have to be true to who you are. Who are you? And if you don't know
Yeah.
who you are yet, then work towards that. Work towards that. And there's nothing wrong with saying, "Well, I don't know who I am yet. I'm discovering something new about myself. No, I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago, and that's okay. We're supposed to evolve. We're supposed to grow.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so it's never, you should
Ooh.
never have to pretend to have it all together.
Absolutely. And I think that in that self-evolving stage, that includes your career. Like, it doesn't mean, like, if I start out here, that I have to be in this career for life.
Right,
It is okay to transition. I think that we grew up in a time that said, go get a job and don't leave that job for 40 years so
right,
that you can retire.
right,
No,
right, right,
no.
right.
How is that okay when I'm changing every day?
Hmm.
How is that okay when I'm evolving and discovering new things that I enjoy, new things that I like? That's not okay.
Right, right. Because the
I think that the new generation is starting to change it. I
okay,
think that they're starting to say, who cares if I ain't been on this job but for 6 months? I found out something else I like, so I'm going over here to do this.
right, right. Exactly. And that is the day and age that we live in now. We're exposed to so much more now than, maybe our parents or grandparents were exposed to in their days. So it was, oh yes, you stay here because then you're looked at as dependable, reliable, you're loyal, right?
I was about to say longevity.
Longevity.
That's that thing. Get that get and I'm like, but my retirement fee is still the same once I'm
Exactly.
stay here 50 years.
Exactly.
Like, I stay here 50 years and you still give me $2 when I could have jumped over here and jumped over there and still got them same $2.
Right.
You know,
Right. Right. Yeah.
while I was miserable in this at the same time.
Right. Right. No, I mean definitely the younger generations are now looking at, wait, it's about me. It's not about you. It's about me. And I think that they've really grasped onto that concept of your job will replace you tomorrow. So why am I being loyal to a job that could replace me
That ain't
tomorrow?
loyal to me.
No, right. It's no, I'm going to go out. Yes, I'm going to develop this skill and I'm going to take this skill. I'm going to go to another company, gain another skill. Like you're building yourself to put yourself in the best position possible for you and what's going to make you happy.
Sound like a little self-love to me.
Right.
Sounds
Right.
like a little self-love to
Right.
me because that's real talk.
Hmm.
Like, we don't talk about it from that perspective. We only talk about it from the perspective of, I was working at the post office for 25 years. Oh, here's your plaque. What?
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely different now. And again, being in HR, I see it all the time. I get the phone calls
I'm sure.
from clients on, where this person is leaving us. Like they've been here for less than a year and they're leaving us. Like what's going on? Well, they probably have learned all that they feel they could learn, from
From
the
you.
company or by you, and have decided that they need more or they want more, and or a position that they were actually waiting for before they came to work for you has now opened up elsewhere, and they're going
That's
to
true.
that because that's where they really want to be. So
That's true.
I see it all the time, all the time.
That's true. I think the lack of self-love, though, can also be a detriment in a career. from a standpoint of, I think you mentioned a while back something about boundaries, etc. I think that when you lack self-love, you allow people to kind of treat you any old kind of way, kind of overuse your ability. You can have a bunch of skills, a bunch of abilities, etc., and accept a job that's going to pay you $10 when you could take your same skills to another job that would, if you had the self-love, right, you would understand and value yourself and go find somebody that's going to pay you for the skills and value that you bring.
Right.
But without the self-love, I feel like you don't really know the value. So it's more so you just accept whatever comes your way versus, wait a minute, I'm worth X, Y, and Z. Right. So you're going to pay me, or I'm going to find somebody to pay me.
Exactly. Or in those positions that feel like, okay, well, yeah, $10. Okay, great. And again, nothing against anyone that's making $10 an hour.
No.
We're just using that as an example here. It also, again, with the self-love is, has someone told this person, well, all you're worth is $10 an hour. Right. And so if that's what they've been hearing and believing, if someone says, okay, I'll pay you $10, in their mind, they're probably like, oh, okay, I've made it. Right. Because that's all they've been hearing. That's hearing.
Good.
So
that's real good.
But to know, no, I'm worth way more than that, then no, they're not going to sit there and accept that or stay in a position just doing that. Like, no, I came in at that. Yes. But over the years, I've grown and I've developed more skills. I'm no longer at $10 an hour. I'm worth way more than that. And I'm going to go pursue that because I know what I'm worth.
Right.
Yeah, that self-value and that self-love and that value that you put on yourself. So.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it can go like both ways. It's like you need it. Like ultimately, in the end, self-love is the foundation, even in a career, even, Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like we're talking about career and moving and the different things that are affected. But self-love to me is a pillar. It's a paired experience. It's not something that stands alone. Yeah. And it's definitely interwoven, intertwined into making career success happen.
Yeah. It should be your foundation.
Yeah, you gotta start somewhere. You can't, be in a position of just like, oh, whatever you say, or I think it also starts with this. The self-love builds the self-confidence, right? So when you have that self-love and then you develop the self-confidence, then you can succeed in that career because you can feel like you know what you're doing. You can feel like you are moving forward. You can go into a room and not be afraid of X, Y, and Z. You can showcase all of you.
Right.
Again, increasing the value, increasing, all collectives is what I call it. Like, hey, we're doing this.
Right.
But this is the core.
Right. Definitely. It allows you to put your value on you instead of giving the power to somebody else to put a value on you.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. You don't really think about it from that perspective all the time. Yeah. But yeah, that's true. That's true. Does that roll? So we brought up boundaries. So when you think about the boundaries, how do you navigate boundaries in a workplace?
Well, again, it starts with your self-love, right? It all comes back down to that. So
we're gonna drill self-love in your head that you need self-love with everything.
Right. No, basically, it starts there. Going back to your foundation, your core values, what are you going to accept? What are you not going to accept? And knowing how to communicate that. So, it's now we're going into, your communication skills, your listening skills, and all of that pieces. Can you express yourself in a way that where others can look at you and say, okay, yes, this person is confident. This person does know what they're talking about, right? So I know that I can't cross a certain line with this person because they know
Mm.
who they are. They,
Ooh.
versus
Yeah.
someone that approaches you very timid, right? Or, well, I think, or, you know, maybe I can, type situation where someone with a strong personality who's confident and knows themselves, they're going to walk all over you if that's your
Mm-hmm.
approach. So when it comes to setting boundaries, it starts with that confidence. It starts with you knowing who you are and saying, "I'm sorry, I'm not going to accept that. This doesn't align with who I am as a person." Or why I even came to this company. If we're talking about careers, I came to this company because I saw that the company's values, core values, mission,
Mm-hmm.
vision, all of that was X, Y, and Z, which align with who I am as a person. In this position now, I'm not seeing that. So I can't accept that. Or it's saying,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go elsewhere, even because you know who you are and you know that you're marketable. You know that you can present yourself in front of anyone, regardless of position. And get your point across, right? So when it comes to your boundaries, we have to go back to the core of it. Your self love. Who are you as a person? And are you aware of enough of who you are in order to be able to communicate that, express that, and deliver that message to someone that may be
Mm-hmm.
testing your boundaries?
Yeah. What boundaries have you seen crossed most in the workplace?
Work life balance.
Mm.
Definitely work life balance, where employees are saying, I have to get home to my family, and the employer is saying, not until you get done with what I told you to do. Well, they may not have, right, all the tools necessary to complete whatever that task was. Or you have an employer that is just going to push an employee until the employee breaks because they feel that they can. And if the employee doesn't speak up for themselves and saying, no, I'm sorry, this is either out of my scope, right? This falls under your
Mm.
scope to do. I'm happy to assist when I come in tomorrow morning. But right now, I need to go home to my family. The work life balance is pushed all the time. Employees are getting burned out because they're working longer hours. It goes back to the remote work that we do now, right? Working remotely. We're working from home. We're working longer hours as is. So employers are looking at it, well, you're already home. You can continue to work, until you get this done. And that's not the case. You have to know when to say enough
Mm-mm.
and walk away and separate the two. Because at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, if you do have a family at home, they need you too. So if you're spreading yourself way too thin, you're not going to be good for either one, your family or
Anyone.
work,
Mm-hmm.
and or definitely not yourself. So the boundary that definitely gets pushed the most is that work-life balance.
Mm. So, of course, you did give a couple of examples and how to handle that. But for the person who doesn't know, like, or maybe fearful, because I think the idea that my job is in the balance if I push back um, is like the number one reason why people may or may not
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, see you in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what would be your suggestion on how to handle that still leaves them in a position of protecting their role?
Well, if you're in a position where you're not sure if you'll have a job the next day, if you stand up for yourself, you might want to consider where you're working and see if that's definitely somewhere that you want to continue to work. You want to be in a position where your employer can respect the fact that you do have a family that you need to go home to, or just you, period, your self care, right? Because It's depending on the positions that you're in. Employees can easily get burned out. If you are in a high stress role, HR, you can easily get burned out when you're dealing with other people's, problems and problem solving and all of that. So if you're looking at your manager, supervisor, team lead, whomever you report to, and they don't seem to have an interest in your self care, like you as a person, and knowing that there has to be a balance, you might want to consider where you work if you're in a position to do so. If you're not, and this is, where you truly want to be, but things just aren't working out the way that you want them to, you're tired, they're working you, to your bones, I would say have a conversation with your manager, have a heart to heart with your manager and saying, I want to be that effective employee for you. At this time, if I continue to work at this pace, I'm afraid, you could even say afraid, or, I feel that I'm not going to be as effective. And in order for both of us to reach that end goal of the company, of the vision of the company, can we work on a schedule? Can we work on even additional breaks if need be, or to say, okay, this is the time that I'm going to end, but I will make whatever I'm working on right now a priority when I come in first thing in the morning. You have to be able to have those candid conversations with your employers.
Absolutely. That was really good. Because a lot of times people don't know sometimes people don't even feel like it's an option.
Right.
There are some employers and managers or, supervisors that have an attitude of what I say goes, period. There are people that, just feel like, man, me bringing an issue is an issue.
Right.
Right. Then I think the other boundary, now I'm going to give one of my boundaries that I think gets, I won't say pushed, but I will say, I think people cross it. It's personal. The personal boundary. We make friends in our careers. So we are very easy, like it's easy to just talk about yourself, right? It's easy to break that boundary plane of too personal. Right. I think determining, should I do this? Should I not? It's the real hard part. Because if a person comes across like real, like cool, like you like, oh, they cool, I'm like, I can see myself hanging with them outside of this building.
Right.
Type thing. Then you tend to like,
you open
just
up
do
more.
it. Like you become more vulnerable. Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the how wins, the what nots, the no-nos, the, oh, that's possibly okay. Like our listeners are probably saying, yeah, I deal with that all the time. And then they get sometimes burnt by that coworker, right? Because something didn't go their way or whatever the case may be. Like, how do you really know when that boundary is okay to cross? Should it ever be crossed? Should it,
Yeah.
I'm listening.
That's a good one. That's definitely good because we all do it. We all develop a friendship. It may be with multiple people at the office, or that one person, right? That's like, oh, you develop that where you get so close to where your facial expressions, what you're saying with just your facial expressions, right? But you want to sit and think of, okay, if something was to happen in this office where it's them or me, right? We're in that position where it's them or me. They're going to go for themselves, right? They're going to fend for themselves. So don't give them that ammo to use against you. Yes, it's hard, especially if you start hanging out outside of work together. But again, you need to be careful with how much information or how much of your life you allow someone that you may not see again if you don't work there again anymore, right? How much information do you really want them to have about you? Does that mean that it's strictly business all the time? No, not necessarily, but you have to determine for yourself what's too personal. Is it family? Is it your relationship? Even being careful with talking about other people in the workplace with this person. Because again, if it comes down to tomorrow, a promotion is up for grabs and it's between you and that person can turn on you within, in a heartbeat and say
2.5 seconds.
Absolutely. Oh, well, they're not really a team player. They talk about, so and so all the time. They feel this way about you and this way about you. So you want to be, very careful and conscious of what it is that you're saying. You can still be friends with someone that you work with. But again, don't give them any type of ammo to be able to use against you. Filter what you say to a certain extent. Everyone can't be trusted, unfortunately. They can't. Are there a few that, yes, you do develop, long friendships with people that you worked with and you remain friends even after? Yes, it is possible. However, you have to proceed with caution in these type of situations because you just never know. Someone can turn on you in the blink of an eye.
Man, so unfortunate.
It is.
And the only reason I say that is because I always look at work and school to be where you spend the most of your times, right? So like as kids, we spent all our time in school, so we made all of our friends that way. I feel like it's a learned behavior. You learn to build friendships and relationships with individuals that you socialize with the most. You go into the workplace is equivalent to school from back in the day. And again, socializing with individuals that you spend the most time with. So it's very catch-22-ish. The fact that you have to be so on guard with individuals. It's almost like you walk into a new workplace and it's like, okay, I can myself think of times where it's like, okay, you're going to start this job. Remember, they not your friends. Remember, don't say nothing about what you know. Don't say nothing about who you know. Don't say nothing about, It's like doing a self pep talk before going into the first day.
Of what not
Just
to do.
be, right. And almost like don't be yourself in a way. You know what I mean? Like be yourself as far as friendly, but don't be yourself as far as like how you are with your homegirls on the weekend.
Right.
And it's, being very like rigid.
You have to be observant.
In reference to 100%.
You have to be observant. You have to see how people move, right? So is what they are saying to you lining up with how they move, how they act, how they carry themselves. If you see someone that, is constantly talking about other people, or they're coming to you, they introduce themselves to you, they're being friendly and, super welcoming, excuse me, but immediately start saying, oh, you might want to watch out for this person, or you might want to watch out for that
I'm watching out for you.
Exactly.
You're like, no, I'm watching out for you.
Exactly.
You came to me with that. I'm watching out for you. No, I mean, yeah, at 100%. I agree with that. I just feel like it's such a thin line. Yeah. It's such a thin line because you want, again, everybody wants friends. I mean, we all do. Even if we don't want to
build relationships,
right? Even the loners, even those that say, "Oh, I'm a loner. I don't want to be with." Right. No, you want friends. You want somebody you can pick up the phone and call. Every now and then. You don't have to want to be with them on a 24/7 basis,
right?
but you do. So like, I don't know what a great rule of thumb is when deciding, or you're navigating those waters and trying to decide, like you said, can I trust this one?
Right. Right.
I don't know. I don't know what that real rule of thumb is, because my rule of thumb in general is everybody is capable of doing everything. So I don't care if we've been cool for 25 years. You capable.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Like past anyone.
Right. It's never a they will never.
Right.
No. So it's navigating that. And I think ultimately it's acceptance. It's more so like, accept you for you, accept them for them. And if you say or do something that comes back on you, hey, I said it, sure did.
Right.
Like,
right. Accountability.
And being able to own it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, don't do nothing you can't own tomorrow.
Exactly. And that is the rule of thumb. Don't do anything you can't do tomorrow. Don't say anything that you're going to be ashamed of saying tomorrow, or that can be used, against you in a negative way. So that is the rule of thumb. And yes, it doesn't seem fair, because once again, it's like, well, can I be myself? Well, who are you? Are you going to be that person that's going to badmouth everyone else? And if so, why? Why? What drives
that part?
So more self-reflecting, self-love, in all of that. Why do I have to talk about
Because
someone?
self-love.
Yeah, exactly.
Bad.
And, if something happens at work that affects you negatively, it's honing in that emotion. Well, why? Again, why is it affecting me negatively? And instead of just venting about it, right? Because that's where people get in trouble. They're in an emotional state and now they're just venting. And then it comes back to, well, I didn't mean it that way, but you said it and someone interpreted it that way. And now it makes you look a certain way, right? So yeah, there's the rule of thumb. Don't say anything today that you're going to regret tomorrow, or that you're not going to proudly hold yourself accountable for tomorrow.
Right. And be able to explain. I think that sometimes, just in general, people don't know, or people have a difficult time of really comprehending someone else's intent. And then we as people have a real hard time communicating. Like, effective communication is like really, really, really key. If I say something that you don't understand, say you don't understand it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I think a lot of times we take in what people say based upon how we would mean it if we said it.
As a matter of fact.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? You may say, oh, that manager is very like stern and difficult to, interact with. And you mean exactly that. They're stern and difficult. Doesn't mean you hate them, doesn't mean you don't like them. It just means that they're difficult to work with because whatever they got going on. But an individual that feels that difficult and stern has a 100% negative connotation of, I hate your guts.
Right.
Then they going back to whoever and was, oh yeah, she don't like you.
Right.
Wait.
Right.
Who said somebody didn't like somebody? I said they difficult and stern.
Right.
And so that right there, being able to clear it up, stand on it, and say what you mean. Like, yeah, I said that. Oh, yeah, I said you was difficult. Yeah, I said you stern.
Right.
But I never said I didn't like you.
Right. Right.
Like,
Right.
So that's their interpretation of difficult and stern.
Yeah.
So I really do think that communication is key. I think that learning how to navigate the boundary, like, almost feel like, okay, I'm about to say some reality TV stuff, right? When I was watching Real Housewives of Atlanta, I'm sorry, I'm a little reality junkie, people. Sorry. It's my vice. Deal with it. As I say, it's entertaining. But I think back to Nene and Cynthia having a friendship contract. They had a friendship contract. They standing in that kitchen with that little paper. And you might have to have a work buddy contract.
Right.
Like, yo,
Right.
Not saying that they're always going to adhere to it, i.e. Cynthia and Nene fell out a few times. But, I think setting the boundary of that relationship becomes important.
Mm-hmm.
When you find yourself falling into connectivity. And I say that to say, like, energy is everything,
Absolutely.
Right? So if you're feeling like the energy between you and whoever is vibing, your little work buddy, you know what I mean? We're going to go into this next one in a second. These work husbands, work wives. Yeah, we go in there and give me about 2 minutes. That's another boundary.
That's another boundary.
I feel.
For sure.
Right. I think, and I really feel like those are a little different, right? Like, yes, this friendship boundary is big because it's about personal, blah, blah, blah. But that work husband, work wife boundary, that's real. Yeah, we going to go there real in a second. I just think that there should be a conversation about the boundaries that you need to put in place in these energy level, we vibing relationships that are saying, like, you know what? We are maybe not going to talk about work when we're outside of this,
right.
place, and everything that is said outside of this place stays out of this place.
Right.
If I'm bringing you around my family and friends or what have you, it stay right here. You know what I mean? And in the workplace, I'm only going to talk about work. Like, set the boundaries. I have a work friend, and we went to lunch one day, and he said, now, we ain't about to talk about that job on this lunch break, right? I was like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I ain't come to lunch to talk about work.
Right. And that's healthy.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. But you can easily compartmentalize a person into a specific space.
Right.
And so for me, though he didn't want to talk about work, for me, that's all I can talk about with you, because that's where I know you from.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it goes back to how do you really navigate those waters?
Right.
And it was like, okay, let's talk about the boundaries of, no, I think you're cool as an individual beyond your title and your position. And so I want to talk to you outside of work, X, Y. So we're not going to talk about work. Whereas in my mind, I met you there. That's all we talking about.
You are work. That's how I know you. You are work.
That's how I know you. And that's how we keeping it, because the boundary for me is that I can't take you into the personal side, because I don't know you like that.
But like you said, that's why it's important to communicate that. You have to communicate that, because if that's your boundary, but the other person doesn't know that that's your boundary, right? And so, the line is going to get crossed. And then if you say, wait a minute, no, I'm not talking about that. Now the other person is a little confused, like, but I thought we were vibing, right? So it's having to have that clear communication. And like you said, those boundaries set from pretty much from the get-go, pretty much, because then you don't want it to turn into now she acting funny, because you know how that can go, right?
You get them looks.
Right. Now it's a whole nother situation. So definitely communicate boundaries. What are you comfortable with? What are you not comfortable with? And see if that person can accept that. If that person can't accept that, then you have your answer.
How we moving.
Exactly.
Move how we move, boo. Now, we about to get a little juice. These work husband, work wives, right? Like, I think that's another boundary issue, because it's more so like, how does that even develop?
Who came up with
What
that?
what what it's super popular. It's super popular. You
Definitely.
know,
Yeah.
I used to, you know, I'm trying to think back the very first time I ever heard somebody use the term actually came from a husband and wife conversation. So the
Um,
guy, the husband, like a real life
a
husband and
husband and wife.
wife,
Yeah.
we talking,
Hmm.
right? And the husband say, "Oh, so and so, that's her work husband." And I was like, "What? You let your wife have another husband?" Like that was my first initial thought. Like, what you
What do
mean?
you mean by that? Yeah.
And so he was like, "Yeah, you know, I ain't there. Like I'm not at work with her. So, you know, he fulfilling the conversations. He's fulfilling, you know, the things she can't pick up that's heavy that I would pick up if she was at home. Like he was really like that's her go-to masculine person at work.
Hmm.
When she needs something done, that's who she calling on.
Hmm.
And I'm
Hmm.
like, wow, what a concept.
Yeah.
What a concept. Now
Yeah.
I've heard it in multiple ways, but I do want to know from the HR side of the world, when you hear the term work husband, work wife, ooh, like what
Yeah.
are we really doing?
So, unfortunately, in some situations, it does bring a negative connotation to it. When 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 it should be innocent, right? We'll just say that way. It should be. Um, from a personal standpoint, that happened to me at the previous company that I worked in. I had a close working relationship with the CFO. Being HR, you work closely with finance,
Yeah,
right?
with the C suite.
Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
work closely, and there were projects that we had to work on together a lot. Well, apparently, he was talking to his fiance. She was the fiance at the time, um, talking to his fiance quite a bit about work. And well, I was a part of work because we worked on a lot of projects together. So the first time I met her, when she came to the office, she said, "Oh, you're his work wife." And I said,
Oh no.
"I'm sorry."
Huh?
I'm
What?
what? And she was like, "Well, he's constantly talking about you. Like, I have to work with Evelyn on
Wow.
this. I have to work with Evelyn on Evelyn, and I did this today, and Evelyn and I, had to take this business trip together, and
Mm.
all of that." So that's when the first time I was referred to as a work wife, and it took me back a little bit because when she said it, there was a little tone to it. So,
Right.
so it definitely can, sound negative, when in reality it's innocent, or we would hope that it remains innocent. Because yes, being in HR, I've heard it all. I've heard it all where, well, we work together so much that something did develop from that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
which is why a lot of companies have
Mm-hmm.
the policies in
No
place. Yes.
fraternization.
Yes,
This is why
exactly.
no frats came in.
This is you work, like you said, we work with these people so many hours out of our day. In some cases, you may work weekends together, or in other instances, depending on your roles, you may have to go on a business trip together. And yes, the closeness happens, which again, that's where boundaries come in. You have to set those boundaries. No, do I like those titles, work husband, work wife? I don't. I don't, because being someone outside of that quote unquote, work wife, work husband relationship, another employee is looking at this, and it's this rumors can start from this, or if it's someone
Mm-hmm.
that, it's a manager and just an employee, now this employee can be looked at, oh, there's favoritism there. They're, oh, they got promoted. Why? Oh, they must be doing something else with that, that manager or supervisor, because they are so close. I mean, they are, work spouses. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so it's dangerous. Again, start out innocent, could be very innocent. In my situation, it was innocent. It was strictly work. But in her eyes, when she said it didn't come across to me that way. There was a tone behind it. And he just kind of laughed
Yeah.
it off, because he was standing there. He kind of just laughed it off. And I was like, no, I'm not, I'm not his work wife. Yes, we work on a lot of projects together, but we're coworkers. And that's what my title is when it comes to him. It's just a coworker. So
Yeah, I think that the tone probably comes after they see you. Probably in the beginning. You know what I mean? Like in general, like you hear about it all the
yeah,
time in reference to the stories,
yeah,
but it's like until you lay eyes on the person, then it becomes a little bit more.
hmm,
You know what I mean? Like if a person is not attractive or you don't feel like they're a threat in any way, then it's like, oh, okay.
hmm,
You start thinking they're a threat. It's like, wait, that that undertone comes in real fast
yeah,
because you can't change it. You know what I mean?
right,
Unless you're saying, hey, quit.
right, right,
You know, you as the outsider can't change it.
right.
But yeah, so that boundary is real.
And those boundaries have to be
It's
set.
something else.
I mean, you may even have to speak with that coworker of, when referring to me, if you're talking about work at home, be clear in saying my coworker, this or that. I don't know what your relationship is like. However, you set a tone, with your spouse in regards to that, but we are strictly coworkers. So if that means having to limit those lunches together, if you are already working on, majority of the day together, to be seen as going out, and they're going to go have lunch together too.
Right.
It's perception. Could be very innocent, right? The
Hmm.
intent is to get more work done, where the impact
Absolutely.
is, oh, something's going on because of perception. And it also depends on how you carry yourself at the office with that person. Are you constantly joking? Is there physical touch?
Flirtatious.
Right, right. Where now it's
Hey.
crossing that line into, flirting. Yeah. So
Yeah. I
it's
think
real.
that the goes back to energy to me too. Like
Hmm.
I do think that if you're super comfortable with the person, it's very hard to always remember where you're located.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
once you've built a bond,
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. But you have to have that
it's
self
really hard.
awareness.
Oh, did we bring self awareness and self love and self acceptance? All of that comes into play,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But that boundary is big.
It's real. That
It's
boundary is
big.
real. Absolutely. And again, it goes down to, you know, what are the things that you will and won't accept? So you have to set that boundary. Are you going to accept compliments that don't have anything to do with work? And if so, what message could that put out there? If you're like, oh, well, thanks, and give that little cutesy smile or giggle, right? How is that person going to
Mm-hmm.
take that? Like, oh, she liked that, or oh, he liked that. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or,
Because it definitely goes both ways. 100%. 100%.
for
Yeah.
sure.
I think it's also trying not to be mean too, right? So let's say someone does play a compliment. You don't always want to turn around and be rude or mean and act like their compliment was like unwarranted or,
Hmm.
it's like they could have simply just, yo, your dress is actually beautiful or,
Hmm.
look at you. If you're a person that don't wear makeup as a woman and a guy, what you put makeup on today? Oh, look at you. He's like really like
Hmm.
thinking you look beautiful today. Both parties could be in a awkward spot,
Yeah, but it's knowing how to bring it back, though. So if
Okay.
if it's,
Teach them.
oh, that's a beautiful dress. Thank you. So back to what, da 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 da, instead of, oh, thanks, you like it, and then now you're fixing it and positioning it to, keep talking about it. No, thank you. I appreciate it. So, what were we talking about in regards to this project, or what was it that we were doing? Like, bring it back to the focus on what it is that you're doing. Don't keep it going. Or you like it? Oh, I'm glad you noticed it. Right? Because then it's, oh, you're glad I noticed it. Were you doing it for me? Is there, oh, okay, let me see how far I can go with this conversation, or can I open a door here, because you've cracked that door a little bit by not bringing it back to work.
Right. I think that the other thing with that also could go back into the self-love piece. If your self-love is low, getting compliments, it's a booster sometimes.
Right.
It's like, oh, they're interested. Oh, they're, again, creating more issues than not. High self-love, or, a full tank of it with, oh, okay, and move it right along.
Yeah.
But if it's a little low, that can also be what
you want more. Yeah,
I'm not getting it.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
So yeah, I really do think that, again, as we've been talking, self-love, career, all of that collectively, it definitely plays a role together.
Absolutely. It intertwines. It does.
Boy, you got some boundaries. Social media, it's a lot. It's a lot, because even when I think about the boundaries, social media plays a part of that too, because sending comments on your video. Yeah, you didn't say it at work, but you saw my video over here. Should you befriend? Boundaries. Should you befriend coworkers on your social media platforms?
Again, it gets very, very tricky. I personally, I don't until I no longer work there. And then it's, oh, okay, yes, now I can accept this friendship because I no longer work there. While you're working there, if you do befriend someone on social media, it goes back to, what are you posting? What are you posting? And what message are you putting out there, when posting? Because now your audience is different. Your audience is different.
I'm just saying, from that boundary standpoint, though, I could post a picture of me right here. And if that individual is interested,
the comments
they may feel like they can make a little comment, do a little heart post, and a heart post to them may just be, oh, it's cute. It may not mean absolutely nothing, but all about the way we interpret things, or the definition we place on it.
Right.
I.e., if every time I place a heart on something, it means I really like it, or I'm like winky winky,
right,
then that's what that means.
That's your reality
for me. So when you or them post it on my picture, because that's my thing, that's your thing too, because it's on my picture. You know what I mean? And so that boundary, can you even make a comment? Can you even like it? Can you even, so I agree. I have that same rule, really. Like, I don't befriend you on social media till we ain't working together. I've always had that, only because it ain't none of your business what I'm doing out in these streets.
It's not. And again, it goes back to not putting anything past someone, right? Like the situation with the client that I have. An employee went to the manager and said, oh, they're getting ready for a party. Where you're thinking, this is somebody that I could trust at work, right? This is a friend. But no, this friend is running and showing your social media. You're not friends with your manager on there. You're friends with this coworker, but your coworker is run and tell that. right.
Right. Because I think a lot of times people do run that narrative of don't befriend your supervisors.
Right.
Oh, you can befriend your coworker, but your supervisor, nah, leave them right there. But no, it's really all people that have that company name as their employer on their phone.
Right.
If that's your employer, no, we ain't cool like that.
Right.
From a social media standpoint. But no, I get it.
Right. And if you
them boundaries are real.
Right. And if you do befriend someone, again, it's communicating those boundaries. What you see on my page, it's mine. It's not for the company to be made aware of. And if you can't respect that, then no hard feelings, but I will unfriend you. Like, let's just have that understanding. It's not
Maybe
personal.
Too late then, but.
Yeah, and it may be, but that's why you want to have that conversation ahead of time. Like, have it ahead of time. It's that contract, that unspoken contract. So
yeah, that one. Agreed. Boundaries. Whew. They everywhere.
Indeed, they are.
I mean, that's a one. But I think, of course, when I think about the self-love, the career, and all of that, from a boundary standpoint, it's like, yeah, without the self-love, you don't have the boundaries. You just kind of like whatever, free for all.
You accept any and everything.
Mm-hmm. It's real free for all. And it doesn't matter what boundary we talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Be your real life friends. It can be in the career, at a workplace. It can be your family members. You just have no boundaries. You just
right.
Doesn't mean that you're breaching everybody else's, but it does mean you allow other people to breach yours.
Right. Which again goes back to, well, how do you view yourself? So yeah, it is that self-love, self-worth, the value that you place on self. Are you going to stick up for yourself no matter who it is? No matter who it is, because yes, family can. Yeah. But
they press their luck too all the time. All the time. So, but yeah. So do you have any last words of advice that you want to bestow upon these lovely individuals that have been listening? Because I'm sure they're super they've been taking notes this whole time. But do you have anything you would like to give them?
It just going back to, what we've been saying this whole time is, be true to yourself. Be careful what message you put out there, because whatever you put out there is going to stay out there. So be strong in, your posts for sure. Be authentic. Be ready to, if needed, to defend, what you put out there. Be accountable for your actions. Be very observant of who's around you before befriending anyone. But most importantly, be true to yourself. Be authentic. Be happy. Do what makes you happy. You only get one life. Live it to the fullest, but live it correctly when it comes to social media and your employer. So that's pretty much it.
Well, y'all heard it from her, not from me. Do you? Love yourself before loving others, and you'll be all right. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for giving all of your expertise, Miss Evelyn.
Thank you for having me.
Again, thanks for stopping by Loving Me Before I Love You podcast with Tammy Nicole and friends. Next week, we'll be discussing self-love and life after divorce. Please come see us.